Hi, my name is Bowen Duan. I'm currently a high school student studying at YK Pao School in Shanghai, China. And the paper that I'm going to present today is the three-child policy and its positive impacts on female labor engagement in China. This is the paper that I've worked on earlier this year, and I'm mainly going to talk about the relationship between fertility and labor, specifically in the case of China. I'm firstly going to look at the previous literature and how there used to be a negative correlation between fertility and labor, and how in the past few decades things have changed dramatically, and why this correlation has largely turned positive. And lastly, I'm going to discuss how that correlation is going to affect the three-child policy and how that is going to affect female labor engagement in China. So first, a little bit about fertility and female labor engagement in China. The Chinese government has limited fertility in China using family planning policies, namely the one-child, two-child, and three-child policy. The one-child policy lasted from 1979 to 2015 and limited the number of children that a family can have to only one. And in 2016, the one-child policy was canceled and the government put in place a two-child policy, which limited the number of children that each family can have to two, and that number was increased to three in 2021 in order to encourage couples to have more children because the Chinese government want to encourage population growth again to sustain the growing economy. In terms of female labor engagement rate, in the past 3 decades, it has fallen from around 73% to around 61%. It has been steadily decreasing, meaning that the percentage of women in the economy who are willing and able to work and find a job is getting lower and lower. So why is female labor engagement rate and fertility correlated? This is because there's an opportunity cost that comes with giving birth to a child. When a woman has a baby, then she probably has to take care of the baby. She probably has to spend time off work to care for the baby. And that takes away from the amount of time that the woman has to work. This is coined by Henry Cleveland as the child penalty. This opportunity cost measures how much a woman's labor participation and income reduce after giving birth to a child. This opportunity cost exists because of many reasons. The first reason is workplace discrimination. When an employer looks at a woman's profile and realizes that this woman is likely going to give birth to a child, and this woman is likely going to take time off to take care of the baby, the employer is going to be less incentivized to hire that woman, leading to gender discrimination. This is also because of the replacement of labor, which is to say that when a woman does leave her job and takes maternity leave to take care of the baby, the company is likely going to find somebody to replace that woman. And when that woman returns to the company after an extended period of leave, she is going to be in a very awkward position because she has been replaced by someone else. This is also because after an extended period of maternity leave, the woman might come back to the company and find herself unable to adapt to new changes and innovation in the company. And according to past evidence and past literature, an increase in fertility rate has decreased women's labor participation rate. So after the two-child policy was put in place, Chinese women were allowed to give birth to more children, and weekly labor would fall by 7.5 to 12.3%. And conversely, females' employment would also decrease of a woman's fertility, which is to say that when a woman is employed, she is also less likely going to give birth to a child. So historically, according to past literature, there used to be a negative correlation between the two factors. So this negative correlation is obviously not a very good thing, because after the implementation of the three-child policy, assuming that fertility goes up in China, female labor engagement is going to further decrease, and less women are going to be willing and able to work, which is very problematic. But the literature is actually split on this. There are other scholar who has pointed out that there's no negative correlation between fertility and female labor engagement. For example, Xiaobohe study, which suggested that no negative correlation exists in China in early 2000s. And overall, globally, we can also see this negative correlation diminishing. If we look at the graph on the right, This documents the correlation coefficients between total fertility rates and female labor participation rates across 22 OECD countries. And we see that the negative correlation is slowly decreasing and the coefficient is slowly turning positive after early 1980s, which means that for the past 4 decades, there has been actually a positive correlation between female labor engagement rates and fertility. So why is that? There are a few reasons why this is happening. The first is the increased availability of public education and childcare. Specifically in the case of China, all children, all students have to fulfill 9 years of compulsory education. And because the children have to go to school, there's less of a burden on the mother to stay at home and take care of the child. So obviously, the child penalty and that opportunity cost is going to decrease. There is also commercialized childcare in China in the form of hired nanny service. So mothers can hire nannies to take care of their babies and go to work, and they don't need to worry about staying at home to take care of the baby. That also takes away from the opportunity cost and the child penalty. This explains why the negative correlation is decreasing, but the availability of education and childcare doesn't seem to explain why the correlation has turned positive. And there are two other factors that can justify this. The first is the changing aspiration of women, which is to say that increasingly there's this narrative that celebrates women as both mothers and successful employees in the workplace. So women are inspired to both be successful as a woman in the workplace and as a mother. And narratives like this has contributed to the overturn of the correlation between fertility and labor, because now women who are being successful in the workplace, who are working really hard, are also trying to start a family, have kids, and be a good mother. The progression of social values also contributes to this positive correlation between fertility and labor. Societies no longer demands women to be stay-at-home parents or stay-at-home housewives, and this also enables women to be both good mothers and good workers in the workforce. So these are the reasons why we can see that the correlation between fertility and labor has turned positive. And now I'm going to talk about why locally in China, the three-child policy is further going to contribute to this positive correlation. And this is because of the state policies that are put in place, which are coupled with the three-child policy. So along with the implementation of three-child policy, the government also implemented parental leave schemes and childcare subsidies to further encourage parents to have children. For example, in Guangdong, the government has extended maternity leave by a month, and in Chongqing, the government has implemented a 15-day paternity leave. And in terms of childcare subsidies, the government is offering $2,800 in Shenzhen in the course of 3 years for all couples that have 3 children. In Jinan, the government is offering $87 per newborn, and in Yichang, the government is offering $73 per month for all couples who have 2 or more children. So the government is using state policies like this to encourage couples to have more children. And these state policies also contribute to female labor engagement rate because they take away from the child penalty. Parental leave schemes allow parents to take time off to take care of the baby when they need that. Childcare subsidies also allow parents to hire nannies and purchase childcare services. So the opportunity cost of giving birth to a child is going to further decrease, which means that women will have more time and energy to return to their jobs and be a part of the workforce. So the main argument and the main contribution of this paper is basically to argue the three-child policy, as well as complementing parental leave schemes and subsidies that are put in place along with the policy, is going to help women stay in the workforce and encourage women to work more in China. And this is actually going to possibly have a positive impact on female labor engagement in China. And it's not necessarily going to sabotage the future of working mothers. Based on this, we can recommend policies such as the government provision of public childcare, the further implementation of parental leave schemes in more regions across China, as well as promote more progressive social norms that benefit working women. And these policies are going to further contribute to the positive correlation between fertility and labor, and as a result, helping mothers stay employed. In terms of future research, my paper is only published 2 years after the three-child policy was put in place. So I didn't have any empirical data to work with because it's a bit early to assess the effects the policy has had on working women in China. So in the future, data and statistical collection will be really valuable to really look at what the policy has achieved in terms of improving fertility or improving female labor engagement. Quantitative analysis could also greatly contribute to the research by really figuring out what is the correlation between fertility and labor in China. So if you're working on data collection, if you're working on quant analysis, and you can feel free to email me and talk to me about fertility and labor in China. Thank you so much, ICMGD, for offering me an opportunity to present my studies, and it's absolutely a pleasure to be here and talk to you about my research. Thank you so much.